Hi, my name is Charles Dunn, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about gambling disorder and how simple games that involve chips, cards, and dice can really affect somebody's life. 1 out of 12 chance of happening. Nice. Now, the reason why I'm talking to you guys about gambling disorder is, well, I've been said to have one. Hear me out. Now, I don't necessarily think I have a gambling disorder personally, but I've always been really into the idea of breaking odds and talk about odds and gambling, and that whole aspect of it has always been really fascinating to me. So, when I was in high school and I turned 18, I started buying scratch-offs. And I might have bought a few. Sometimes I win them.
Oh yeah, baby, that's right. $10. Winner, winner, baby. Woo! Oh shit.
And sometimes I don't.
Son of a...
With that being said, I still want to learn more about gambling disorders. I want to learn more about what they are and why do people suffer from them, and I really want to dive deep into the psychology of it. And I want to know what keeps people staying gambling long term and why people can't just get up and walk away from the table. Is it because they want the riches, they want the money, or is there more to it? But to do that, I need to do some research. Perfect.
According to Pietro Ferreira, author of Gambling Disorder in Adolescence, a gambling disorder is a psychiatric condition that is characterized by a maladaptive pattern of gambling behavior that persists despite negative consequences in major area of life functioning. From reading that definition, I instantly think of one of the negative consequences being gamblers losing their money. And consistently, gamblers do lose their money, but I want to think of why that happens, and from there, I turn to statistics. After doing some research on statistics, I was able to find a very relevant theory for my topic. That theory being the law of large numbers, or large number theory for short. Well, it's kind of complicated, so to better help me understand this, I phoned a friend, aka a math professor at MSU, to help explain what's going on here.
What that means is if you played 5 games, there would be a lot of variability. You could either win all 5 or lose all 5. And your variance, if you did a statistical sampling, if you did that trial 5 games 100 times, the variance in those readouts would be high. Now, what would be different is if your individual trial, instead of being 5 games, was 5,000 games. It's a new, different experiment. And then we did 50 trials of 5,000 games, same number of trials, bigger trial, that you would have the same expected value, 0.98, but the variance would be very tight. There'd be a very small variance.
Now I'm going to give you guys a brief explanation about what large number theory is in different contexts, like pictures. Here we go. So, large number, very important. Next, we're going to talk about when it's a small amount of time you actually play. When you play for a small amount of time, there's multiple different options that can happen. You can win 5 out of 5 times, you can win 2 out of 3 times, you can win 1 out of 4 times. But all these dots represent different things that you could possibly do. Notice how they're all not near the 46%. You might ask, what's this 46%? That's the odds of you winning. So, when you go to a large number of games you actually play, a lot changes. Basically, those odds of you winning, instead of being all over the place, they start zooming in more and more and more towards 46%. Yes, around 4,000 games, you could still be a little bit above 50%, but it's extremely unlikely, and you're going to start approaching 46%. Now, what does it all ultimately mean? Well, really, in this scenario, and most scenarios in gambling, it's about only 1-to-1 odds, which really just means whatever you put down as money, you'll get that money back plus the exact amount you get. Now, here's the thing. You only have a 46% chance of winning. And the more you play, the more you actually win, only 46% of the chance. So it means you're not going to have a 100% chance of winning. It's going to go towards 46% chance, which means if you only win 46% of the time, and it's only 1-to-1 odds, you will lose money.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Why? you will lose money.
Can you stop slamming on my fucking door?
That being said, I don't think it's people chasing riches for the reason why they keep going back to the gambling table, but then I have to go back to myself and think, what could that possibly be? What's the reason that people are going to keep going to the casino and lose their money? And after doing a little bit more research, I think my answer lies in addiction theory.
Before gambling disorder was ever considered a disorder, it was actually called pathological gambling, which really wasn't even considered an addiction at the time. But once they considered gambling addiction to actually, exist, they called it a gambling disorder. And the people who called it gambling disorder were the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders. And when that happened, it was actually mostly related to substance abuse addiction, and they're really closely correlated.
Just thinking about how a game is played, I'm not surprised how a gambling addiction can be associated with a drug addiction. The reason why is because when you're playing a game, you're chasing for that big win. You put all that money on red, you put all that money on one hand of blackjack, and you're just hoping that you would get the blackjack or get a good hand. And when that happens, you're freaking out. You feel amazing, you feel like you're on top of the world. And that feeling is what drives a gambling disorder. It what drives people to want to be able to gamble more and more so they can keep having that feeling. So, places like casinos, they know that you're chasing that feeling. So that's why they set up when it comes to slot machines and different games where it makes you feel so good when you win just so little, so you keep playing with the flashing lights, with all these fancy equipment. It drives you back and it keeps you going and keeps you wanting to keep playing.
Now that I have a better understanding about how people with gambling disorders are more focused on the high of oh my god, you're winning, rather than just getting all the riches, I want to see if anybody else around campus or MSU has ever witnessed the same thing as I'm witnessing. So from there, I asked a couple people and I got a really good response from my friend Kayla Sharp.
I think it's definitely the thrill. I think the money is cool, but when you feel like you're on a hot streak, that's how casinos and gambling gets you, because you feel like you're on a hot streak and you feel like you're really lucky and you're doing good, and then you can lose all of it in just a second. That's how game shows work and everything like that.
Now, what did I learn from all this? Well, I learned that there's two main problems with gambling disorder. The first one being people addicted to that high of that next hit, that next win, of them chasing, oh my god, moment I just won big. Well, the other problem happens to be in the realms of material science, when it comes to people losing their money, losing their savings, and that huge negative consequence in their life. Now, everyone knows the second one. Everyone knows, oh, you gambled your money away. Oh, you lost your money to gambling. But no one ever thinks of the psychological toll that gambling has on people and how it's so closely related to drug addiction. People will treat drug addictions very seriously when it's come up to people, but I don't think that seriousness ever comes along when it comes to gambling disorder, which I'm really hoping that this documentary can spread some light on and show the seriousness of the psychological effect of gambling. And now, to answer the age-old question that you guys have all been wondering throughout this whole documentary, do I have a gambling disorder? And to answer that, probably not. If it's all jokes aside, thank you guys so much for listening to my documentary and learning about the seriousness of gambling disorder, because honestly, it's a really huge topic for me to teach people, because I don't think it's really brought up enough, and the seriousness is never really emphasized enough. So thank you guys for listening. But I'm also having this last part of the documentary to teach people about lens logic. Lens logic is this logic for people who are just starting gambling for the first time, and it's how to not develop a gambling disorder. It's really helpful. It can really save some people, and it's actually gone through case studies, and people have had 50% decrease of developing gambling disorder from having this logic. It's going to be at the end of my credits. There's a link to the article. I really highly recommend reading it. And yeah, besides that, thank you guys so much for watching.